Yuan Chu was directly thrown into the sky. At this time, Yi Chenyuan also exited the secret realm, and someone fell directly into his arms. Yi Chenyuan looked at his master in confusion. Yuan Chu hid behind him. She had changed into Yuan Chu. Version. She had offended too many people in the secret realm. She had to change her face to hide. Mu Qinghan's heart was hurting from Yi Chenyuan and Yuan Chu's intimate interaction. If only the person he was longing for was him. After the woman came out and couldn't find Yuan Chu, she went to Mu Qinghan to ask for her. But there were only 30 elite students, and none of them knew Yuan Chu's name. That meant that someone who wasn't an elite student entered the special secret realm. They immediately became upset, and went to find Elder Zhong. And this was exactly the effect that Yuan Chu wanted. She wanted the academy to help her find the person who stole her token. Yi Chenyuan was busy looking for a quiet place. He just wanted to find a quiet place and look at the person he had not seen for 10 days. Yuan Chu held out her hand. Seeing that she was okay, Yi Chenyuan was finally relieved. But there was still one important question. Where was he sent to the secret realm? Yuan Chu panicked. If she told the truth, Xiaoyang Yang would surely get angry. She blurted out, claiming it was a high-level secret document. Yi Chenyuan fell silent. The next second, he vanished. Oh no, Yuan Chu whimpered. Yuan's angry. Yuan Chu cautiously poked her head into the room. Yi Chenyuan looked at her with a blank expression. Suddenly he spoke softly, Master, change back to your original form. Yuan Chu didn't dare to disobey, obediently changing back to her cute, small self. But she was panicking inside. Did he find out I lied? Her hair grew 3 inches. She became slightly taller too. So, why did Master lie? Am I that untrustworthy? Could it be that there's another reason? If it was because of someone else, would he be able to tolerate it? Yuan Chu couldn't bear it. She could only suppress the spiritual energy of the blood-cursed tomb. Yi Chenyuan sensed that she was being evasive. Who would have thought that this cute and innocent little thing actually possessed a deadly hand? Yi Chenyuan sensed it and didn't dare to touch it. A murderous aura emanating from her soul. Who is it? Who turned my girl into this? Seeing Yi Chenyuan so worried, Yuan Chu threw herself into his arms. Yuan, my hand hurts so much. Yi Chenyuan's heart ached with guilt. It was all his fault for not taking care of Master. Old Li was startled by Yi Chenyuan's murderous intent. Yi Chenyuan anxiously took Yuan Chu's hand to show him, asking for a solution. Old Li stared at it intently. Then, he solemnly told them, the blood-cursed tomb not only affects one's soul, it also has a skill, desperate reversal. If its growth isn't controlled, it will completely take over the body, but suppressing its growth will cause a backlash. The only known method is to enter the transformation pool, but no one has ever come out of it alive. Actually, Yuan Chu had long foreseen the severity of the situation. In the past life, Mu Qinghan was forced to go to the transformation pool. So, does that mean he'll eventually have to go to the transformation pool? Would he even survive that? Yi Chenyuan tightly hugged her. He would find a way to suppress the blood-cursed tomb, and he would not let those who caused her suffering get away with it. Feeling Yi Chenyuan's sadness and anger, Yuan Chu realized she was being a bit too impulsive. She tried to shift his attention. Yuan, I missed you so much in seclusion. Their food was so awful. Look, I'm so thin. After a while, she let out a satisfied burp. As expected, male leads are good at everything. Your cooking is top-notch. Yi Chenyuan was still holding her hand. He also wanted to know how she got entangled with the blood-cursed tomb. Yuan Chu was about to answer, but she suddenly remembered that this injury was from when she saved Mu Qinghan. She only wanted to sell him a favor at that time. If she told him, Yuan would definitely fight him. Yi Chenyuan sensed that something was wrong. He tried to urge her to continue. Yuan Chu claimed her hand hurt, making Yi Chenyuan worry. Then, she placed a finger on his lips. I tricked you. Yi Chenyuan's handsome face flushed red. The culprit, however, was about to run away. Yi Chenyuan knew that she was only running away. He really didn't know what to do with her. To find a solution for the blood-cursed tomb, Yi Chenyuan went to the academy library. Outer disciples could only enter up to the 3rd floor, and there was no record of the blood-cursed tomb on these 3 floors. The library had a total of 9 floors. Yi Chenyuan decided to try to go up. He asked the librarian how to obtain the qualification to go to the top floor. He learned that only inner disciples were qualified. Then a clear, elegant voice came from behind, let him go up. Yi Chenyuan turned around, and discovered that it was Mu Qinghan. Though he didn't know why he was helping him, he didn't want to delay right now. What he didn't know was, Mu Qinghan was only trying to build a good relationship with him. They arrived on the 4th floor. Mu Qinghan suddenly asked Yi Chenyuan, "Are you also here because of Xiaochu's hand?" Yi Chenyuan's aura changed instantly. How did he know Master's name? Could Master's hand have something to do with him? He then learned that Master's hand was related to Mu Qinghan, and that he even wanted to take his girl. Yi Chenyuan's eyes instantly turned red. With a loud bang, a pillar was instantly smashed. Mu Qinghan's guards wanted to attack but were stopped. Mu Qinghan thought Yi Chenyuan was defending Yuan Chu, and expressed his own determination. Yi Chenyuan was only hearing a buzzing sound. A voice in his heart kept urging him to kill this person, who wanted to take his girl. Mu Qinghan told him, "I won't make things difficult for you, after all, we will be family." Hearing this, Yi Chenyuan showed a sinister smile. The boy's words nearly brought upon him a disaster. Yi Chenyuan was filled with anger. Become a family. Master can only belong to him. No one else can covet her. The lightning in his hand flickered, if just a little. This person wouldn't be in front of him. Suddenly a small hand tentatively touched his hand, but it was repelled by the lightning. Yi Chenyuan turned his head. Yuan Chu had appeared at some unknown time. Seeing Yi Chenyuan's bloodshot eyes, she knew what was going on. She then acted. Sweet as honey, she took advantage of his distraction and struck him with a palm strike. Seeing Mu Qinghan's swollen face, she asked him to go back first. She left with Yi Chenyuan. Watching them leave, Mu Qinghan pondered, could Yuan Chu's disciple have other thoughts about her? After finally bringing Yi Chenyuan back to his room, Yuan Chu didn't understand why he suddenly lost his temper again. So she had old Li, who witnessed everything, come out to explain. Old Li sighed. Then, he looked at her, "I sent it all because of you. If you didn't cause so much trouble, Xiao Yuan would not have become so possessive." Yuan Chu straightened up. "I treat you like a disciple, you are trying to be my husband." So he knew his hand was because of Mu Qinghan, and that's why he lost it. After a while, Yi Chenyuan woke up. Yuan Chu happily wanted to talk to him, but Yi Chenyuan closed his eyes, lost in thought. He had decided that their relationship was only that of master and disciple, but Mu Qinghan actually wanted to marry his master. Imagining her becoming someone else's wife, smiling at someone else, he couldn't help but want to kill every man who dared covet her. Yuan Chu saw that he had closed his eyes again, and thought that he was blaming her for not wanting to talk to him. She burst into tears. "This is so hard." She poked his face with her small hand. Wasn't she afraid that he would get angry, and that is why she didn't say it? Yi Chenyuan opened his eyes. Actually, he also wanted to know why. Was it because he was afraid he would blame him for interfering, or was it because he had risked his life to save someone else and didn't dare to tell him? If she didn't want to tell him, what was his place in her heart? Yuan Chu acted childish. Yi Chenyuan seemed to realize something. Was she deliberately risking herself to save him, knowing how dangerous the blood-cursed tomb was? Yuan Chu realized she could no longer lie and admitted it. Yi Chenyuan's heart instantly turned cold. So she was that concerned about Mu Qinghan. He turned his back. "Master, please leave. I want to be alone." Yuan Chu wanted to explain. Yi Chenyuan didn't want to listen. Yuan Chu was at a loss. "I did all this for you." Yi Chenyuan smiled bitterly. Her heart was as if torn in two, seeing that he really wouldn't talk to her. She slammed the cup on the table. Tears welled up in Yuan Chu's eyes. She huffed, "He's the son of the wealthiest family. Even the emperor has to give him respect. I just wanted to make him owe me a favor, hoping that in the future, he would help you deal with that arrogant guy. So even though I knew the blood-cursed tomb was dangerous, I still saved him. I just wanted to help you. Don't you just hate that I always cause trouble? If that's the case, then you can just find a master who doesn't cause problems." Saying this, she ran out crying. Yi Chenyuan had no time to react. Just a half-beat late, he was gone. Yuan Chu's figure disappeared. He started blaming himself. He thought that after days in the secret realm, they had grown apart, but his master was so dense. How could she have feelings for Mu Qinghan? He was really too stupid. How could he misunderstand him like this? "You can't leave. I won't let you leave me." He would fret. He would be considerate and take care of her. If she was hungry, he would make her favorite food. He would even eat fish for her. But she went and hurt herself for another man. He thought that she had feelings for that man. He explained. She wouldn't listen. After he stormed off, he regretted it. With a sigh, How could someone so dense have feelings for someone else? Yuan Shu concealed her aura hiding in a tree. Ever since she came to the empire, she was nothing. Not the strongest, nor did she have any power. Saving Mu Qinghan wasn't for herself. Who knew that Kumu was so powerful? But when Xiao Yuanyuan found out, not only did she beat Mu Qinghan, she also gave him a cold look. Their relationship was definitely over. All his efforts were wasted. He didn't want to care about Xiao Yuanyuan anymore. Then, he heard Yi Chenyuan calling out to him. Right now, he was a complete mess, disheveled hair, all over. He had used his soul force to study 3 floors of books causing a headache. But, he couldn't stop. He was still waiting for her apology. Yuan Chu's heart ached. But, he was too stubborn, and didn't listen to her explanation. But, in the end it was because she was being protective. Was it too much to throw a tantrum like this? No, he couldn't be soft-hearted. He had to let him know he had a temper. Yi Chenyuan suddenly swayed, nearly falling to the ground. Yuan Chu panicked, but held back. This slight movement was noticed by Yi Chenyuan. Feeling his aura, he barely managed to stabilize himself. But then, he collapsed again. As he was about to fall, Yuan Chu couldn't help, but rushed to his aid. The one who had unsettled his heart was finally here. Yi Chenyuan hugged him tightly. Master, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have refused to listen to your explanation. Please don't leave me, okay? Yuan Chu was surprised. He who was so aloof actually said the word please. Before she could react, Yi Chenyuan picked her up. He didn't want to experience that feeling of not being able to find her again. He bit her neck hard. Taken by surprise, Yuan Chu shivered. She pushed him away, but didn't expect him to do that. He had actually marked him with his blood. This was a mark used by hunters to track their prey. Even if it escaped, they could still find it. Pushed away, Yi Chenyuan became more agitated, gripping her so hard it hurt. Yuan Chu glanced at his eyes, and noticed they started turning red again. But his eyes were clear. The look in his eyes made her unable to resist, so she quickly changed the topic. She just realized his damaged soul had recovered and his power had increased a little. Could it be his blood? So, just now, the dizziness was because he was using his blood to heal. After all, his blood protects those he has healed. It must be so. Yi Chenyuan directly interrupted her fantasy. He intentionally left his blood mark. He wanted her to be by his side forever. He even feigned a pitiful expression. This made Yuan Chu remember the old man's words. Could it be Xiao Yuanyuan has already become aware of his responsibilities as a father? Thinking of this, Yuan Chu could only accept it helplessly. So Yi Chenyuan's character is actually this. And they reconciled. The next day, when they woke up, Yi Chenyuan had returned to his usual self. He had already prepared her favorite egg porridge. He tidied her messy hair. He asked her to describe her interactions with Mu Qinghan to her, and even told Yi Chenyuan to go apologize. Yi Chenyuan's methods were very cunning. In his mouth, there were other men in her life, but he pretended not to hear her words about apologizing. Yuan Chu was worried because Mu Qinghan's family was powerful. What if his family gave Yi Chenyuan trouble in the future? Yi Chenyuan was delighted. Sure enough, his master cared about him most. Suddenly he was shocked to discover that the blood tracking mark on Yuan Chu's hand was gone. Yuan Chu shouted, "Oh, Yi Chenyuan! Where are you? Come out now." Is that mark accumulating some great power? Only when needed, did he remember the old man. After a closer look, he noticed the blood mark was in a dormant state. He asked what had they done yesterday. Yi Chenyuan blushed. Yesterday he had left a blood mark, but the mark was only for tracking. He looked at Yuan Chu and suddenly thought of something. He raised his hand. He forced the blood mark out, then unleashed lightning. The blood mark went wild for a moment, then went quiet again. Yuan Chu clearly felt that it was weaker than before. She then remembered how she was shocked by lightning when shielding Yi Chenyuan, meaning that the blood mark was afraid of lightning. Yuan Chu now wanted Yi Chenyuan to shock it again. Yi Chenyuan dared not let him. What would happen if he electrocuted it? So, he suggested using the blood mark for experiments. At that moment, Yuan Chu suddenly sensed someone approaching. She quickly changed her appearance to Mu Qingga. Hong Qiao excitedly ran to tell Yuan Chu. The person who had switched their tokens had been found. The girl was watching the show with her fiancé, but a man was confessing to her in front of her fiancé, and this was all the woman's conspiracy. The matter of swapping the tokens had exploded. Mu Qingga's ally, Li Xuanji, switched the token to help Jiu Qingga get close to Yuan Chu, saying that he knew Mu Qingga's power was strong, so he switched his token. so that he could protect him more in the secret realm. This way, your power would be exposed and you can enter the elite ranks. Then, I could see you often. A single stone caused 1,000 ripples. After this statement, the nature of the matter changed, because the other party did it for her own good. In the end, good intentions did the opposite. The academy wouldn't punish them too severely. Yuan Chu felt a chill. She didn't expect this to backfire on them. She couldn't help but smirk. She wanted to ask, the tokens were given out 1 hour before entering the secret realm. How did someone in the early core formation stage switch the token with someone in the late core formation stage? Li Xuanji hadn't expected Yuan Chu to actually be in the late core formation stage. He frantically thought of a way out. The token was just hanging on you. You were talking to someone else and weren't paying attention, so I got it. However, his words were illogical, giving Yuan Chu an opening. She proposed to suppress his cultivation to the late-stage core formation and fight Li Xuanji. If she could take the token from him, that would prove that he stole it, and not someone else. But, the elders didn't want this. They wanted to make the issue disappear. Yuan Chu wasn't going to let them have their way. She had planned to use the secret realm to find the mastermind. She knew that because of this she had argued with Xiao Yuan. She boldly stated that who in the world was in the late core formation stage at the age of. With her exceptional talent, if the academy didn't investigate thoroughly, then, if a bad guy attacked him in the dark, would the academy take responsibility? Hearing this, the elders could only agree. However, the second elder's expression was dark, because he was in charge of the ranking. If something was wrong, he would be held responsible. He claimed that since Yuan Chu's body was in the late core formation stage, to be fair to Li Xuanji, she should suppress her cultivation to the middle stage of core formation. Hearing him say this, the students couldn't take it anymore. The late stage of core formation and the middle stage core formation might seem like just a small difference, but in reality, it was like heaven and earth, not to mention suppressing her cultivation to the middle stage. Yuan Chu accepted it calmly and demanded that the other party go all out. Li Xuanji knew that doing this would lose him face, but for the sake of Jiyu Qingke, it was worth it. As soon as the fight started, Li Xuanji immediately used his ultimate move. This shameless act drew boos from the students. Yuan Chu, who was suppressing her power to the middle stage core formation, was also injured, but she wouldn't let this get her down. Directly she walked toward Li Xuanji while enduring the heavy attacks. She kicked Li Xuanji, shattering his protective magic artifact, and sent him tumbling to the ground. But, she wasn't done playing yet. She would give him something to never forget. She smashed Li Xuanji onto the ground hard, crushing his inner. The second elder stood up abruptly, a friendly spar. Why did you go so far? Yuan Chu said it was just a fight, but since Li Xuanji liked him so much, he should be sent to a special training camp. Touched, he would naturally return the favor. The second elder continued to criticize him, but Yi Chenyuan interrupted. Now that the results are out, shouldn't the sect give the students an explanation? The watching students nodded in agreement. Jiyu Qingke felt uneasy hearing the surrounding voices. Before he could think of a plan, the second elder angrily called him out. It turned out that the second elder had entrusted Jiyu Qingke with the token. Yuan Chu thought to himself, I haven't offended anyone, have I? Jiyu Qingke didn't know how to explain. At that moment, Su Haiyue jumped out. She angrily took all the blame. She had long been annoyed with Yuan Chu. Thinking about how gentle Han was towards Yuan Chu, Su Haiyue wished to kill her. Yuan Chu mumbled, Are children here so precocious? The first elder was in a difficult position. Su Haiyue was a treasured princess of the Pill sect. Jiyu Qingke glanced at Yuan Chu. If she offended the Pill sect, his future would be cut in half. He hoped this woman wouldn't implicate his Chenyuan Gij. Fuyu looked towards Yi Chenyuan, but he was met with Yi Chenyuan's judging gaze. Jiyu Qingke felt guilty under his gaze and avoided eye contact. At this time, the vice principal, Jiyu Wenshu, arrived. He immediately started to accuse Yuan Chu. As the vice principal, you're covering for a student who made a mistake. He even wanted to use 2 bottles of pills to settle the matter. Seeing Yuan Chu being bullied, Yi Chenyuan stood in front of her. He didn't waste time arguing, directly conjuring flames. He threw various herbs into the fire. In just a moment, he refined a 4th grade pill. His clear voice rang out, It's already a 4th grade pill. Everyone was shocked. Yi Chenyuan was only. Did he start refining pills from the womb? Wenshu hesitated. Yi Chenyuan was not only talented, strong, but also a 4th grade pill refiner. They didn't need any compensation from the pill sect. Yi Chenyuan demanded that Su Heyue apologize to Yuan Chu. Su Heyue immediately jumped up. You're dreaming. Are you not afraid of becoming enemies with the pill sect? Yi Chenyuan laughed. Anyone who bullies my master must pay the price. Suddenly, a burst of energy pinned Su Heyue to the ground. If you don't apologize, then I'll disfigure your face. Yuan Chu found it strange how her disciple was suddenly acting so boldly, but having her disciple back her was so satisfying, especially when he was so young and so protective. Su Heyue frantically begged Jiyu Wenshu for help. Jiyu Wenshu demanded that Yi Chenyuan release her, but before the words finished, an overwhelming pressure crashed down on him. Wenshu, is this how you manage the academy? An old man appeared out of thin air. This was the principal, who had been traveling for many years. The students were excited. The principal was known to be righteous. He would surely uphold justice. Su Heyue panicked. The principal was not only strong, but also had established an iron rule for the academy. A life for a life. But she had only tried to kill. Would she have to pay with her life? Yuan Chu said she only wanted Su Heyue to kowtow. She did not want her life. She emphasized how dangerous her special training had been to emphasize how reasonable her request was. Su Heyue still wanted to argue, but the principal coldly interrupted. Either pay with your life or settle it privately. Uncle Gui frantically squeezed out of the crowd. He decided to give a 7th grade life-sustaining pill. He couldn't let his young miss be hurt. Su Heyue was ecstatic. That was something that even the pill sect's ancestors could only create on rare occasions. How could it be given to these people? Yuan Chu was tempted. That was something that could increase the chance of advancement by half, but she wasn't someone who suffered losses. So she only wanted Su Heyue to apologize. Su Heyue saw that no one was helping her. She panicked. She tried to escape, but was stopped by Yi Chenyuan. He made sure she knew that if she moved another step, Yi Chenyuan would not hold back. Uncle Gui didn't expect Yi Chenyuan to be so aggressive. The principal was too strong to resist. He could only watch his young miss suffer. Su Heyue couldn't understand why they were all protecting Yuan Chu. She was such a flirtatious woman. Yi Chenyuan just coldly stared at her. Time was running out, forcing her to kneel. Su Heyue blamed Yuan Chu for all this humiliation. Yuan Chu knew how petty Su Heyue was. She just knew how petty Su Heyue was. Even if she let Su Heyue off, she wouldn't let her go. She decided to make the hatred stronger. If she didn't kowtow, he would disfigure her face with poison. Su Heyue was truly afraid this time. Even though she was unwilling, she lowered her pride and kowtowed. In the end, Su Heyue was expelled. Before leaving, the principal gave Yi Chenyuan a meaningful look. After everyone left, Yuan Chu asked how Yi Chenyuan knew the principal was nearby, and how was he certain that he would help. It turned out that Yi Chenyuan was showing off for the principal. He knew the principal was there. He had noticed an old man he couldn't see the cultivation level of, and the stolen treasure was a listening artifact. Jiyu Wenshu would definitely inform the principal. So, Yi Chenyuan guessed that the old man was the principal who had just returned. He had not revealed himself to see how the academy would handle this situation. It was rumored that he was very righteous and the truth was on their side. Yuan Chu was amazed. As expected, my Yunyun is more observant. She tried to drag him back to their room. Soon after, moaning sounds could be heard, which stunned the women outside their door. A girl's hand tightly grasped the door. To find a cure, Yi Chenyuan decided to cut off a small piece of Yuan Chu for experimentation. But even being careful would hurt Yuan Chu. This made Yi Chenyuan heartbroken. Elderly sent a voice transmission to tell him that Jiyu Chinka was here. Jiyu Chinka knew that Yi Chenyuan suspected him. He wanted to clear up the misunderstanding. Knowing they were in the lounge, he went to find them, but the sounds of moaning came from inside. His hand on the door paused. Elderly informed Yi Chenyuan that Jiyu Chinka was eavesdropping. Yi Chenyuan became jealous. He knew that Jiyu Chinka liked him. He decided to take this opportunity to make him give up. He continued to gently kiss Yuan Chu, this time making more noise. Be good, don't be afraid, it'll be gentle. Yuan Chu didn't know his plans, she just habitually acted cute with him. It hurts. Xiaoyuan Yuan, stop. Please, next time, okay. I'm scared. This time, they were pretending to be entangled on the bed. This made Jiyu Chinky's face as dark as ink. The pure elderly was stunned by Jiyu Chinka. He didn't know why it was so interesting. And why was his expression so scary? Yi Chenyuan felt guilty, but sometimes short pain is better than long pain. While Yuan Chu's eyes were closed, he quickly cut off a small piece. The moment the piece was cut, the wound started to heal. Yi Chenyuan released lightning to make her continue to sleep. Yuan Chu was so numb she felt like jelly. The feeling of electricity was still lingering. Yuan Chu opened her eyes, looking at the door. I feel better. Cute Yuan Chu answered honestly, it feels so good. Numb and tingly, the person outside finally couldn't hold back, and knocked loudly on the door. Yi Chenyuan calmly picked up Yuan Chu, and told Yuan Chu to put on her motherly demeanor. When Ji Yuchinka came in, he saw Yuan Chu resting gently in Yi Chenyuan's arms. This scene pierced his eyes, his face became even darker. Yi Chenyuan didn't know if Ji Yuchinka was involved in the token switch, but seeing his expression made him very uncomfortable. He deliberately embraced Yuan Chu more intimately. Darling, someone is looking for me. Should I give them some money? The word darling made Yi Chenyuan blush. He happily cooperated. He said that they could stay as long as they wanted. Yuan Chu mentally cheered. As expected of my disciple, we have such good chemistry. Ji Yuchinka looked pale. He still didn't believe that his Chenyuan Gij had a fiancé. But Yi Chenyuan mercilessly shattered his fantasy. He told Ji Yuchinka to stop calling him Gij. They were not related. Ji Yuchinka angrily huffed. Can our feelings since childhood be forgotten so easily? Hearing him speak of feelings, Yuan Chu became angry. In her previous life, Yi Chenyuan had helped Ji Yuchinka escape marriage with the prince and suffered serious injuries. Besides, if he was so careful and responsible, how could he have allowed Su Heyue to control him? Saying he wasn't an accomplice in switching the tokens, he really didn't believe it. Thinking this, he clung to Yi Chenyuan like a vine. Little Yuan could only be his. Yi Chenyuan knew this was acting, but his heart was already filled with her. Compared to their closeness, Ji Yuchinka was heartbroken. He should be the closest person to Chenyuan Ji. Someone as narrow-minded as Yuan Chu, being with Chenyuan Ji would only be hard on him. Yuan Chu glared at Yi Chenyuan. Little Yuan, being with me is difficult for you. If you tell me that, I promise not to beat you to death. Yi Chenyuan quickly pecked him on the corner of his mouth. How could it be hard? Every moment with master is his happiest time. Yuan Chu's little face blushed after being caught off guard by the kiss. He thought little Yuan was going to kiss his lips, and the place that was kissed felt numb. It must be remnants of little Yuan's lightning powers. Yes, that must be it. Ji Yuchinka continuously comforted himself. Yuan Chu was just seducing with her body, and her goal was to remove Yi Chenyuan's suspicion. He pushed everything onto Su Heyue and Shen Sha. He said that because Yi Chenyuan was too close to Yuan Chu and Mu Qinghan that he incurred jealousy. Yi Chenyuan's eyes darkened. If Su Heyue can't manage her man, don't go hurting other women and men. He really couldn't understand such an innocent situation. As long as Su Heyue didn't cause trouble, they wouldn't provoke her. After speaking he politely gave an order to dismiss the guests. Ji Yuchinka could only leave reluctantly. A mocking sound came from behind. He couldn't hide the anger on his face. Yuan Chu secretly looked at Yi Chenyuan. Not like his baby face, Yi Chenyuan was now a handsome teenager. There was still a slight bit of his lightning power left on him. Yuan Chu felt the heat rising in her body. She quickly left, telling him to study the technique properly, and not to run away. Alone, Yi Chenyuan snickered in the room. He, as a master, should absolutely not have those kinds of thoughts about his disciple. So he drank 200 jars of wine a day to numb himself. Ling Ling was a spinster in her previous life. Why is she so lecherous in this one, and even on her disciple? Could it be that age made her a pervert? Yi Chenyuan returned, only to see his master looking very suspicious, looking at Yuan Chu with an ambiguous smile. Yuan Chu was nervous. The next second, she started coughing loudly. Oh no, this is going to go down. Yi Chenyuan grabbed the wine from Yuan Chu in dissatisfaction. Drinking too much of this kind of wine will cause loss of control. Besides, minors are not supposed to drink alcohol. However, someone didn't seem convinced. Yuan Chu understood in words, but he just wanted to drink to clear his head. It was clearly little Yuan's fault that made him act so weird. And he is the master, he can drink as much as he wants. His angry look made Yi Chenyuan feel even more adorable. After a moment he agreed that he could drink, just not so much. Yuan Chu became complacent. As expected, little Yuan would listen to him when he gets angry. However, he didn't get cocky for long, before she was suddenly dragged into bed by Yuan, causing Yi Chenyuan to look everywhere trying to figure out what was wrong. However, even Lao didn't notice anything strange. Yuan Shu only felt her energy was chaotic, nothing else. Not wanting them to worry too much, he lied down to rest. But the sharp-eyed Yi Chen Yuan noticed something. He quickly took Yuan Shu into his arms. The bed sheet was stained with a smear of red. Yuan Shu quickly used the bed sheet to cover it. His face was burning red. He thought he knew what was happening, but pure Yi Chen Yuan thought it was a blood reflection. How else would there be blood? Yuan Shu told him that it wasn't blood. Yi Chen Yuan did not believe her. Worrying, he wanted to tear the sheet away. Yuan Shu refused. Yi Chen Yuan was very worried, but did not dare to move, afraid that he would hurt her. Lao told him, if you're sick, you have to see a doctor. Yuan Shu was going crazy. A single spinster for tens of thousands of years. A stupid and oblivious disciple. How could they let a person live? Seeing how they had broken up the cycle of killing all the singles, Yuan Shu could only shout angrily, my period is here. It's something all women have. After Yuan Shu said that, she felt a burning in her brain. The first to react was old man Lao, who began to laugh. But the little single guy was still confused. Yuan Shu wished these two idiots would quickly disappear from sight. She had lost face after living for so many years. The next few days, Yi Chen Yuan devoured any information about this, and forbade him from eating spicy or cold food. Before Yuan Shu could protest, he sensed that someone had arrived. He quickly hid behind Yi Chen Yuan. When he came out, he had transformed into Jiyu Chinka. They were asked to see them immediately. Yuan Shu then remembered that they hadn't given Mu Qinghan his money, deciding to visit them to settle things. Even though Yi Chen Yuan was reluctant, he didn't want Yuan Shu to go alone. As soon as they left, Jiyu Chinka took out a communication device and reported to someone inside. On the other end was Su Heyue, who had been expelled from the academy. Mu Qinghan, I want you dead. Yuan Shu wanted to apologize to the Mu family in person. Little did he know, he was being intentionally targeted. At this time, it was very lively inside Mu Qinghan's room. Mu Qinghan was forced to let the alchemist brought by Su Wu give him a checkup. Su's mother and daughter had long plotted, exaggerating Mu Qinghan's condition. Then, they would help cure him. This way, the Mu family would owe them a favor. Just then, someone came to report. There is a man named Jiyu Chinka asking for a meeting. Mu Qinghan was very happy to hear that Yuan Shu had come to visit. He eagerly invited him in. However, his mother was extremely unhappy. Her son was hurt by their people, and before she could find them for an explanation, they came to her door. Seeing her mother's attitude, Mu Qinghan was instantly unhappy. After all, if it wasn't for them he would be dead. But his mother stubbornly believed that Jiyu Chinka was definitely trying to cling to the Mu family. Su's mother, who was watching from the side, also agreed. At this time, Yuan Shu, who was at the door, noticed that the atmosphere inside was strange. As soon as Mu's mother saw Yuan Shu, she lashed out, my son was hurt by your people. How dare you come back? Yuan Shu, realizing that he wasn't welcomed, placed the gifts he brought on the table, stating that he only came to visit, and that they would leave immediately. However, Mu's mother knocked over the gift Yuan Shu brought. Take your things away, we don't want it. Seeing Mu's mother treat her loved one like this, Mu Qinghan couldn't help but say, Mother, what are you doing? Yi Chen Yuan also stood in front of his master. Since they don't welcome us, then we won't stay here. At that moment, everyone was surprised to discover that among the overturned gifts were extremely high-grade heavenly herbs. Everyone was dumbfounded. Su's mother didn't expect Yuan Shu's actions to be so generous. Her eyes almost popped out. After all, these extremely high-grade heavenly herbs were invaluable. She immediately expressed her willingness to buy them. Mu's mother was also stunned. She didn't expect that this young girl would casually give out such precious herbs. This didn't seem to be the leech that Su Heyue said she was. Just as Yuan Shu was signaling Yi Chen Yuan to leave, he was gently grabbed by the corner of his clothes by Mu Qinghan. Having finally met Yuan Shu, Mu Qinghan was unwilling to let him leave so quickly. Before they could even finish their business, there was another force trying to chase him away. Mu Qinghan immediately dismissed his mother, leaving only the three of them in the room. Yuan Shu immediately stated his position to Mu Qinghan. Since your mother dislikes me so much, then let's just be ordinary friends. Mu Qinghan immediately panicked, stepping forward to explain that his mother wasn't normally like this. Yuan Shu wasn't an idiot. His attitude was very resolute. Helplessly, he told him that the person who swapped the tokens was his fiancée, Su Heyue. Mu Qinghan was shocked and embarrassed. He didn't expect Su Heiyue to do something like this. He immediately expressed his apologies and promised that this matter would be taken care of. Then, he became very sad. They had gone through many life or death situations together. Why do you push me away? At this time, Yi Chenyuan couldn't hold back. He put his hand on his master's shoulder and dragged him away, warning Mu Qinghan with a cold voice. You've already brought us a lot of trouble, please keep your distance. Mu Qinghan's face also turned cold. What if I insist on being friends with Chinka? Don't push me. Yi Chenyuan gritted his teeth. Then don't blame me for being impolite. You can go back the same way as last time. At this time, in a corner unknown to everyone, Su Heiyue saw an opportunity, and quietly went to Liu Zan's door and knocked. Liu Zan was confused. What is Miss Su doing here? Su Heiyue then took out a cultivation technique scroll, saying that it was given to her by her mother. Liu Zan was confused. Why give him a cultivation technique? Su Heiyue gave him a cold smile. Do you like that girl from earlier? With that foundation establishment cultivation and body, you can enjoy her very well. Hearing this, Liu Zan couldn't help but grin. He immediately understood what Su Heiyue meant, but she was still worried about the man behind the girl. Who was he? Su Heiyue said, don't worry, he's just her brother. His cultivation is only at the latest stage of foundation establishment. Hearing this, Liu Zan relaxed. His hidden desire was showing. Su Heiyue thought, I didn't expect that a few lies would actually convince Liu Zan. Liu Zan directly asked what he should do later. A cunning light flickered in Su Heiyue's eyes. Later, I'll send her to your location. You don't have to do anything, just take her. The two men were fighting over Yuan Chu. They used their status and power to plot and scheme. They even teamed up to take back Yuan Chu's innocence. They were constantly tempted by her. They even directly gave him cultivation techniques. But facing Yuan Chu's status, Liu Zan was still a bit hesitant. After all, she had Yi Chenyuan by her side. To completely reassure Liu Zan, Su Heiyue showed a talisman in her hand, a smirk on her face. Her eyes looked like a snake. She claimed that she would send Yuan Chu to him directly, even making Yuan Chu vulnerable. Liu Zan's heart was already burning. He immediately agreed with Su Heiyue. After all, why not take advantage of the offer? Su Heiyue's plan was halfway successful. She couldn't help but smile wickedly. At this time, Yuan Chu and the others were still oblivious. Yuan Chu saw that the two men were trying to scheme and immediately stopped them. Yi Chenyuan instantly became a loyal disciple, catering to her every need. He smiled sweetly at Yuan Chu. Master, whatever you say. The atmosphere was filled with love. Mu Qinghan was like a light bulb, awkwardly noticing the tension between the two. He wanted to talk to Yi Chenyuan alone. Yuan Chu was worried, afraid that they would do something behind her back. Mu Qinghan silently said that he just wanted to ask a few questions. Although Yuan Chu didn't know what these two men were up to, she reluctantly went out. She didn't forget to stare at them before leaving, telling them not to move. After going out, Yuan Chu stood by the door. Her ears twitched, wanting to hear what was going on inside. At this moment, Su Heiyue suddenly appeared at the door, trying to get close, wanting to talk to Yuan Chu. But with the previous incident, Yuan Chu had learned her lesson. She didn't even look at Su Heiyue, acting like they were strangers. Su Heiyue was instantly angered. After all, it was the final step. To keep Yuan Chu, she deliberately mentioned that last time someone else had also participated in framing Yuan Chu. Yuan Chu stopped in her tracks. She knew the other person was Mu Qinghan. Su Heiyue was shocked. She didn't expect Yuan Chu to guess it. She had to resort to her last trick, exploiting Yuan Chu's curiosity. You want to know what they are planning inside? Yuan Chu was indeed drawn in. She stopped walking. But, what she didn't know, Mu Qinghan had used his divine sense to block the sound. Yi Chenyuan didn't know what they had to talk about. Mu Qinghan stepped forward and grabbed Yi Chenyuan's collar, opening the door directly. He thought that Yi Chenyuan's feelings for Yuan Chu were not just a disciple's. Yi Chenyuan was speechless after having his thoughts exposed. He couldn't help but ask himself, what did Yuan Chu mean to him? A voice echoed in his mind, reminding him that his feelings for Yuan Chu were not simple. Just as he was about to deny it, he suddenly sensed something was wrong. Yuan Chu was in danger. It turned out that Su Heiyue was ambushing Yuan Chu. She was attacking from behind, but Yuan Chu easily dodged it. Su Heiyue fell to the ground. Yuan Chu turned around. With your skill, you think you can ambush me? Who knew Su Heiyue had a backup plan, she sprayed poisonous gas from her mouth at Yuan Chu. Yuan Chu, caught off guard, inhaled it. She immediately broke out in a cold sweat. Her fighting strength weakened. Su Heyue got up, looking like she was victorious. She was gloating over her previous grievances. Then she pushed Yuan Chu into Liu Zan's arms. Weakened, Yuan Chu couldn't resist. She fell directly into Liu Zan's embrace. Liu Zan, just in case, even used a golden bell to cover the two. At this time, Yi Chenyuan followed Yuan Chu's blood trail. He arrived at the room where Yuan Chu was. Who knew that his attacks had no effect on the golden bell? Everyone gathered to watch the show. Su Heyue whispered to her mother, "I've finished everything. Now, we just wait for Yuan Chu to make a fool of herself." The mother and daughter sneered. After all, Yuan Chu had been drugged. They couldn't wait to enjoy the show. Yuan Chu was now weak, and was being dragged into the room. She had no strength to resist. Yi Chenyuan felt that Yuan Chu was in danger, but he couldn't get there in time. He sensed Yuan Chu's blood was fluctuating, worried about his master's safety. Yi Chenyuan attacked, using all his spiritual energy to create a fire pearl. It flew towards the top of the house. It crashed into the roof, and the house instantly collapsed. Mu's mother was furious seeing her house like this. She ordered the family to catch Yi Chenyuan. The Su mother and daughter were watching with glee, thinking that everything was going according to their plan. Yuan Chu must have already lost consciousness, and was lying in Liu Zan's arms. They were waiting for everyone to see this, but as the smoke cleared, the scene they had imagined didn't appear. Instead, Yuan Chu had pinned Liu Zan to the ground. Yuan Chu's eyes were burning, filled with fury. Everyone was shocked. Mu's mother started yelling at Liu Zan. The situation before their eyes made Su's family scared. Liu Zan was a top alchemist, and he was also their guest. If he was beaten to death, they would be held responsible, and her husband would be furious. Realizing the severity of the situation, Su ordered people to break open the golden bell. Yi Chenyuan and Li Lao realized that Yuan Chu had been affected by the 3-day love potion. The potion would amplify the deepest desires in one's heart, but unexpectedly, what was amplified in Yuan Chu's heart was a burning hatred. Yi Chenyuan looked at the unmoving golden bell. He took out a talisman, chanting a spell. Gathering power, he threw it at the golden bell. The golden bell, which was hit by a strong attack, instantly shattered. Yi Chenyuan rushed to pull back the enraged Yuan Chu. Yuan Chu, who was blinded by rage, asked Yi Chenyuan if he had come to stop her from killing people. Yi Chenyuan's heart clenched. The next moment, he pulled Yuan Chu into his arms. He held her tightly, whispering into her ear, "If you want to kill, I'll help you." Yuan Chu, hearing his familiar voice, suddenly paused. She was confused. This was Li Lao reminding them. Liu Zan had the aphrodisiac on him. That's the smell that stimulated Yuan Chu. Yi Chenyuan got the hint. He removed the pouch from Liu Zan's body and smashed it on the ground. The rage in Yuan Chu's eyes disappeared. She blamed herself, always causing trouble for her little disciple. She thought that if she was careful enough, she could avoid the schemes of the bad guys, but she was still tricked. And Liu Zan was an alchemist. He was now at the verge of death. If he died because of her, it would be difficult for her disciple and moving the clan. Yi Chenyuan comforted her by patting her head. He asked her who did it. After learning it was Su Heyue, Yi Chenyuan's killing intent soared. "It's that damned woman again." He helped Yuan Chu to rest on a stone. He said that he would handle the rest. At this time, Su's mother looked at the dying Liu Zan. She was trembling, desperately hoping that he wouldn't die. Yi Chenyuan wouldn't let him die. He would use Liu Zan to take revenge for Yuan Chu. He quietly gave him a pill to save his life. He warned Su's mother not to move Liu Zan, because his meridians had been shattered. If she moved him, it would cause immediate death. Only a pill could save him. Su's mother didn't expect Liu Zan to be so badly injured. She took out a pill from her sleeve. If she let Liu Zan die, she wouldn't be able to escape the blame. But Yi Chenyuan's cold voice rang again. "Don't." He told them that even if they gave Liu Zan the pill, he wouldn't recover his cultivation. He would be a cripple for life. The mother quickly hesitated to give him the pill. After all, the value of a pill was not small. Mu's mother became anxious, urging her to quickly give it to Liu Zan. If she didn't want to save him, then she would be her husband's concubine. But Su's mother was thinking. If Liu Zan found out that it was her that harmed him, when he woke up, he would never let her go. While everyone wasn't paying attention, Yi Chenyuan looked towards the hiding Su Heyue behind the pillar. He wouldn't let her go easily. He quietly fired a tiny light at Su Heyu's finger. After feeling the pain, Su Heiyue looked at her finger, but there wasn't any trace. The Su family mother and daughter, wanting to scheme against Yuan Chu, not only failed to see Yuan Chu be defiled by electricity, but also got themselves into trouble. Liu Zhan, a rogue cultivator with no rank, was beaten half to death by Yuan Chu. Under Yi Chenyuan's persuasion, Su Mu's original thought of keeping Liu Zhan began to waver. She worried that Liu Zhan would retaliate after being released. She even started persuading Mu Qinghan, after all the incident happened on his land, hard to not getting implicated. Though worried about being implicated, if someone died on his territory, he would not be able to clear his name even if he jumped into the Yellow River. So, Mu stepped forward, took the rebirth pill, and wanted to save Liu Zhan, but was pulled back by Su Mu. She started to taunt Mu. If Liu Zhan woke up, he would definitely not let him off. The two women were arguing while the men stood back and watched. This was exactly the scene Yi Chenyuan wanted to see. He suddenly said that he had a solution. The two, realizing the main event, stopped talking. Yi Chenyuan spoke like a devil. First, give him a curse pill, then kill him. Then, just tell others he was cultivating when he was overcome by qi deviation. Hearing this solution, the two women lowered their heads in thought. Yi Chenyuan continued to tempt them, saying he could help. Injecting demonic energy into Liu Zhan's body would make his qi deviation even more convincing. Mu then stated her disapproval. If they did this, it will be helping Mu's brother cover up the murder. Yi Chenyuan suddenly laughed with an eerie look. It doesn't matter. If you don't make a big fuss, then it's hard to say who will suffer if things get investigated. He intentionally glanced at Su Mu, threatening her. Once the truth was exposed, she would have a hard time. At this moment, Mu Qinghan suddenly stepped forward, agreeing with Yi Chenyuan's solution. After all, they were now on the same boat. This was the best solution. After reaching a consensus, they fed Liu Zhan the curse pill. Yi Chenyuan coldly watched Liu Zhan gradually heal. Yuan Chu gave them a short sword. Su Mu, hurry and do it. Or it will be too late when Liu Zhan wakes up. Su Mu was reluctant. Why must I do it? Yi Chenyuan shrugged. If you don't do it and Liu Zhan wakes up, then we can all just go to the pill association together. Su Mu was forced to comply. She shakily picked up the short sword. She walked step by step to Liu Zhan, who was lying on the ground. Just as his eyes slowly opened, she stabbed him forcefully. Her heart was filled with resentment, and her eyes became bloodshot. At this moment, Yi Chenyuan released his demonic energy, and the matter was quickly resolved. Yuan Chu, who was resting on the side, was surprised. He didn't expect his little disciple to be so evil and ruthless. She couldn't help but feel proud. As expected of her personal disciple. Actually, when she woke up and realized that she had almost killed Liu Zhan, she was very scared. She thought she had caused another mess, but she didn't expect her little disciple to help clean up the mess. It feels so good to be protected. However, Su Mu, looking at her blood-stained hands, was suddenly filled with resentment. She didn't expect her plan to backfire. Not only did she fail, but so many people witnessed her cruelty. Once these things were investigated, she would die a terrible death. The more she thought about it, the angrier she got. She saw Yuan Chu standing there innocently. She was instantly filled with hate. If it wasn't for that little BTCH, she wouldn't be in this state now. She immediately sent 4 energy blades toward Yuan Chu. Yi Chenyuan wouldn't allow her to hurt his master. He immediately intervened and attacked back. Su Heiyue instantly screamed in pain. The commotion attracted everyone's attention. Her father rushed over to check the situation. Su Heiyue's tears flowed. Her hand was covered in a dark liquid. Everyone was shocked when they saw the dark substance. Su Enyu didn't know what the dark substance was, but seeing his daughter in so much pain, he knew it was something terrible. At this time, Yi Chenyuan said that he knew what it was. He leisurely gave Su Enyu a small lesson. Once the blood-sucking moss is inside a body, it will slowly destroy it, and there is no way to get rid of it completely. Unable to bear the pain, Su Heiyue begged her mother to cut off her hand. Su Mu took out a cleansing pill to feed her, but everyone knew that there was no cure for the blood-sucking moss. Su Heiyue continued to writhe in pain in her mother's arms. At this time, Yi Chenyuan suggested that perhaps chopping off the hand would solve the problem. With a broken heart, Su Mu raised her knife to her daughter. The scene was cruel. The girl's hand was covered in the dark substance. To avoid being infected, the cruel mother chopped off her daughter's hand. She then gave her a rebirth pill. Su Heiyue, with her hand regrown, thought everything was fine. But, the blood-sucking moss reappeared and grew even more violently. Su Heyue screamed in horror. The overwhelming pain made her wish she was dead. Su Mu was already at her wit's end. Yi Chenyuan, however, said that maybe they could try removing Su Mu from the Su family line, in order to get the family's divine artifact, because they don't have a rebirth pill anymore. At this moment, Mu Qinghan also saw the true colors of the Su family mother and daughter. He suggested dissolving the marriage contract between them. Then he turned and left. Mu felt a bit bad for breaking the marriage contract. She took out a rebirth pill as compensation. Su Mu, having lost everything, was completely broken. She had truly dug her own grave. Not only did she fail to achieve her goal, she even lost the marriage contract she thought she had. Looking at her daughter suffering, Su Enyu once again raised her blade and stabbed Su Heyue. A terrible scream echoed throughout the entire mansion. Even Yuan Chu, who had already left the mansion, could hear it. A flash of hatred crossed Yi Chenyuan's eyes. If he were the sect leader, then no one would dare to scheme against his master like this. In order to protect his master, he must become stronger, strong enough for everyone to fear him. Back at their residence, Yuan Chu was still immersed in self-blame. She thought of herself as a jinx. She always got her disciple into trouble. Yi Chenyuan lovingly pinched his master's face. He said that it was all the bad guys being too malicious. It wasn't her fault. Being pinched by his disciple, Yuan Chu's face flushed red. She wished she could just bury her head in the pillow. Do you still think him annoying? She asked softly. Yi Chenyuan's cold face revealed his mood at the moment. Yuan Chu thought her disciple was angry at her. She looked at her disciple with teary eyes, trying to gain sympathy. Yi Chenyuan couldn't bear to see his master like this. He explained that he was angry at the bad guys, but using the blood-sucking moss on them was already a discount. Yuan Chu also started to reflect. If it wasn't for her disciple, she might have killed someone. The situation would not have been resolved so easily. She immediately stood up and promised that such things would never happen again. Looking at her adorable master, Yi Chenyuan's heart was about to melt. He couldn't help but move closer and touch his master's face. He promised that in the future, no matter what happened, he would not blame his master. Due to the close proximity, Yuan Chu suddenly turned into a shy rabbit and pushed her disciple away. She told him to pay attention to their boundaries. As night fell, Yi Chenyuan tenderly patted the quilt, preparing his master for bed. After running around all day and being poisoned by the soul-charming incense, Yuan Chu was exhausted both mentally and physically. But she couldn't fall asleep. She couldn't help but overthink things. Wasn't my disciple curious about the murderous intent I displayed when I was poisoned? She couldn't help but ask her disciple, "Don't you have anything you want to ask me?" Yuan Chu's sudden question made Yi Chenyuan's heart skip a beat. Yuan Chu explained that she was talking about the time she had killed someone. Yi Chenyuan replied without hesitation, "Even if master didn't do it, I would have killed that bastard." Realizing that her disciple didn't understand her meaning, Yuan Chu got up anxiously. She wasn't talking about that, but she didn't know where to start. Should she tell her disciple about the pain in her heart? At this moment, Yi Chenyuan said that he wouldn't force his master. It's okay if you don't want to talk about it. He just didn't want to see his master in pain anymore. Faced with such a considerate Yi Chenyuan, Yuan Chu was touched. But she wasn't sure if her disciple could truly accept her story. As she thought, her expression became sad and her tears couldn't help but fall. Seeing his master so sad, Yi Chenyuan gently wiped away her tears. He promised that she could show her true emotions in front of him. She didn't need to pretend to be strong. Maybe it was the atmosphere, but Yuan Chu was craving a warm embrace. She invited Yi Chenyuan to sleep with her in bed. As expected, Yuan Chu fell asleep peacefully in her disciple's arms. However, the next morning, Yuan Chu opened her eyes and saw Yi Chenyuan's face right in front of her. She couldn't help but panic. How could I be sleeping in the same bed as my disciple? He's so young, but he already dares to climb into his master's bed. What will become of him? Yi Chenyuan was very innocent. It was clearly master who invited him last night. The memory of last night suddenly appeared in her mind. Yuan Chu's face turned red with embarrassment. How will I ever maintain my dignity as master? She started to make excuses and blamed everything on the soul-charming incense. Yi Chenyuan suddenly frowned. He couldn't believe what he was hearing. The disciple and the master finally slept in the same bed. Who knew that the next day, the master would turn against him? Yuan Chu quickly got out of bed to escape the awkward situation. Yi Chenyuan saw that his master was barefoot. He was heartbroken. What if he caught a cold? This triggered Yuan Chu's rebellious side. She stepped even harder on the ground. I'm the master. How can I be controlled by my disciple? Yi Chenyuan, like a little crane, quickly picked up his noisy master. Yuan Chu was stunned. As a master, she had lost all her dignity. She desperately wanted to be released, or she would punish him later. Yi Chenyuan looked at his master with an annoyed expression and asked if she was angry. Yuan Chu showed a cat-like appearance. So what if I am angry? Yi Chenyuan looked at his master with gentle eyes, saying that it was okay to lose her temper in front of him. That was the real master. Yuan Chu felt a bit embarrassed by her disciple's affection. She couldn't help but tease him for being a masochist and liking to see her lose her temper. Yi Chenyuan explained while combing his master's hair. He just didn't want his master to hide all the bad emotions inside her heart. Yuan Chu was a bit stunned. She felt that her disciple never lost his temper. You're not a saint, how can you not have bad emotions? She asked. Yi Chenyuan didn't respond directly. He carefully put on her shoes. Then, he turned to get her a glass of milk. Yuan Chu was like an unyielding cockroach. She wouldn't give up until she got her answer. After being asked again and again, Yi Chenyuan finally said, as long as I'm with master, I feel satisfied, so I have nothing to be unhappy about. Yuan Chu was a little embarrassed by the sudden confession. She started to drink her milk. Even the milk became sweet. It must have been because he put extra sugar inside. 3 days later, while they were cultivating in the academy, Li Lao's soul suddenly appeared. He told Yi Chenyuan about the Su family's situation. Recently, strange things have been happening in the Su family. At first, the Su father was worried about his daughter, but after trying everything without success, he became numb. He even abused Su Haiyue often, and the death of Liu Zhan was never resolved. After hearing the results, Yi Chenyuan couldn't help but smile. He decided to take the next step of his plan and personally go to the Su family to solve the problem. Li Lao was worried. With the current situation, it was hard to stay hidden. Going in person might draw more suspicion. However, Yi Chenyuan had already considered the pros and cons. As a disciple of the academy, he could reduce the suspicion. He also wanted to use the Su family to investigate the matter behind the blood curse. He had a suspect in mind, and that was the royal family's prince, Yi Qianshu. He just didn't have any evidence. When the time came, he would connect the Su family and the Shao family. Once he discovered that the mastermind was the royal family, the two families might be used by him. Li Lao was dizzy from hearing Yi Chenyuan's elaborate plan. Why is it so complicated? Why don't you just expose the culprit? Just a blood test and the truth will be revealed. Just as Yi Chenyuan was contemplating how to investigate, a small hand poked him. Yuan Chu put her finger to her mouth, mysteriously telling Yi Chenyuan to look at the teacher on the platform. She was very realistic about the teacher's muscular body. Yi Chenyuan followed her gaze. He was speechless. Master, her focus was always so strange. He said that in his heart, his master's figure was the best. Yuan Chu was so annoyed by her little disciple's teasing that she wanted to lash out. Coincidentally, the teacher announced the end of the class. In an instant, the students started gossiping, talking about the strange things happening in the Su family. Yuan Chu secretly asked about the next plan. When she heard that her disciple was going to the Su family, she excitedly declared that she would go too, but Yi Chenyuan refused. He wanted his master to stay at the academy. After all, she had just been injured a few days ago. He didn't want his master to have any more problems. Yuan Chu instantly lost her spirit. But she agreed to be obedient. She noticed that the dragon egg was reacting more and more strongly recently. So, she would stay at home to nurture her egg. Yi Chenyuan felt strange hearing that. Wasn't she not the mother of the egg? However, Yuan Chu was actually thinking, me, staying obediently. How is that possible? I'll follow you. The evil woman finally couldn't take it anymore. The Su family offered a huge sum of money to find someone who could deal with the blood curse. Yi Chenyuan arrived at the Su family on time, saying that he had a way to deal with the blood curse. But, the Su father was still suspicious, since he was the fiancé of Muchinga. Yi Chenyuan acted calm, and didn't care about the Su father's worries. If it was truly my fiancé's doing, then I wouldn't have come here. The Su father had no other choice, but to trust him. He got up to take Yi Chenyuan to see Su Haiyue. He even warned him, so Yi Chenyuan would be mentally prepared. At the same time, in the academy, Yuan Chu brought the dragon egg back to her room. She found that the door was open. She quickly took the dragon egg back into the space. Inside the room, there was a man sitting casually on the sofa. Seeing this intruder, Yuan Chu put her hands on her hips and questioned his intention. At the same time, she noticed a late-stage out-of-body expert hiding in the dark. To have such an expert as a bodyguard, Yuan Chu vaguely guessed his identity. The man raised his head and introduced himself. I'm Yi Qianshu. Yuan Chu made a shocked expression. Her acting was amazing. She even acted shocked. She raised her voice and asked why the prince would visit a small nobody like her. However, in her heart, she was rolling her eyes. Yi Qianshu apologized for what Muchinga had done, saying that it was his uncle's fault. Yuan Chu purposely pouted, showing that she was a little unhappy. She blatantly ridiculed Muchinga. She even intentionally praised Yi Chenyuan, saying that Muchinga was not worthy of such an outstanding person. Being praised by such a beautiful and cute girl, Yi Qianshu was already getting carried away. He said that his marriage to Muchinga was just a formality. Yuan Chu had a bad feeling. This guy wasn't a playboy, was he? So, she used her charm and started to flirt with him. She deliberately showed off her gentle and sweet side, and even gifted him some precious items. Yi Qianshu enjoyed these compliments. He thought that she was just a woman who wanted to climb the social ladder. He reached out to pull her closer. Just as his hand was about to touch her, Yuan Chu reflexively slapped his hand away. The man's face revealed a perverted smile. He thought this was a common trick used by women. Yuan Chu acted even more shy, but in her heart, she wanted to punch his head off. Yi Qianshu laughed, seeing the shy girl. He regretted not meeting her earlier. He didn't want to leave. Yuan Chu said that he could stay as long as he wanted. She could keep him company, but in her heart, she had already started to calculate his demise. Yi Qianshu got to the main point. He asked Yuan Chu if she had a fiancé. Yuan Chu instantly put on a show. She said that although her fiancé was nice to her,